Stand by. Oh, what's up, smarty people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live at a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email keysdan@aol.com. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Thursday, February 9th, 2023. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Zelensky asked for fighter jets in surprise UK-France visits. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky repeated his calls for more Western military support for his country Wednesday as he made surprise visits to Britain and France. Zelensky told members of the United Kingdom's parliament that Ukraine needs fighter jets to push back invading Russian forces. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said fighter jets were, quote, part of the conversation, end quote, and, quote, nothing is off the table, end quote. After leaving the UK, Zelensky flew to Paris for a dinner meeting with French and German leaders at the Elysee Palace. On Thursday, he is scheduled to meet with European Union leaders at a summit in Brussels that German Chancellor Olaf Scholz said would signal, quote, European solidarity and community, end quote. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 2, Turkey's president acknowledges response problems as earthquake death toll rises. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, sorry about that, on Wednesday visited areas devastated by this week's powerful earthquakes in southern Turkey, acknowledging problems in the government's response as the death toll rose above 16,000. Anger mounted over the slow arrival of the rescue teams in many hard-hit areas, where freezing winter weather diminished the hope of finding more survivors buried in the rubble. Quote, where is the state? Where have they been for 2 days? End quote, said Sabiha Alinak outside a snow-covered collapsed building where her young relatives were trapped. Syria's ambassador to the United Nations said that country also hit hard by the quakes, had a, quote, lack of capabilities and lack of equipment, end quote, blaming years of war and Western sanctions, according to Reuters. Number 3, Republicans grilled Twitter executives about Hunter Biden laptop decision. The House Oversight Committee, now under Republican control, held a hearing Wednesday to grill 3 former Twitter executives about the social media platform brief 2020 blocking of the sharing of a New York Post about the contents of a laptop that reportedly belonged to Hunter Biden, President Biden's son. The former executive said removing the story was a mistake. Republicans have long criticized the move, which was reversed 24 hours later as an attempt to help Biden ahead of the 2020 presidential election, and an example of anti-conservative censorship by Twitter and other social media giants. Representative Jamie B. Raskin, the committee's top Democrat, said it doesn't matter if Republicans disagree with Twitter's policy because it, quote, is a private, First Amendment protected media entity, end quote. This is according to the Washington Post. Number 4, investigators, Putin likely complicit in downing of Malaysia Airlines jet. An international investigation found, quote, strong indications, end quote, that President Vladimir Putin signed off on a decision to provide an anti-aircraft missile system backed by separatists in eastern Ukraine, used to shoot down Malaysia Airline Flight 17 in 2014. Dutch prosecutors who led the inquiry said Wednesday there was no evidence Putin ordered the strike. The joint investigation team previously said the missile that hit the Boeing 777, killing all 298 people aboard, was a Russian-supplied Buk surface-to-air missile. A Dutch court in November convicted 2 Russian former state security officers and a Ukrainian separatist leader on murder charges in the case. Although they were never arrested, Dutch prosecutor Digna van Boltslayer, Boetzelaer, said the team was suspending the criminal investigation because, quote, all leads have been exhausted, end quote. This is according to the New York Times and the Washington Post. Number 5, Kim Jong-un takes daughter to North Korea military celebration. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, accompanied by his daughter, visited troops before a massive military parade marking the 75th anniversary of the establishment of the country's army. Kim praised the isolated communist-run nation's nuclear-armed military for its, quote, irresistible might, end quote, state media reported. The event marked just the 4th known public appearance by Kim's daughter, Kim Ju-ae. She is believed to be 9 or 10 years old. Experts interpreted his decision to bring his daughter to the event as a signal that he won't give up North Korea's nuclear arsenal because he sees it as crucial to the continuation of his family's dynastic rule. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 6, admitted White House supremacist pleads guilty to Walmart mass shooting near Mexico border. Patrick Crusius, 24, pleaded guilty Wednesday to 90 charges, including federal hate crime and firearm offenses linked to a mass shooting that killed 23 people at a Walmart near the U.S.-Mexico border in Texas. Nearly 24 other people were injured in the attack. Crusius has acknowledged that he targeted Mexicans. The admitted white supremacist had railed against a, quote, Hispanic invasion, end quote, of the United States in a statement he posted online shortly before the attack. According to the Washington Post, investigators say Crusius told them he was motivated to commit the crime after reading about the, quote, Great Replacement Theory, end quote, a white nationalist conspiracy theory holding that elites are plotting to destroy and replace the white race with minorities and immigrants. This is according to the El Paso Times and the Washington Post. Number 7, Florida overhaul of Disney tax districts advances toward vote. Florida lawmakers on Wednesday advanced a proposed state takeover of Disney World's Reedy Creek Improvement District, which has given the entertainment giant special status since 1967. Under the overhaul plan, Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican, would appoint a new 5-member board to replace the existing one, and Reedy Creek would be renamed Central Florida Tourism Oversight District within 2 years. Disney gets to keep the tax benefits it had under the bill, which is expected to pass the state house on Thursday, today, and the Senate on Friday. Legislation revises a bill DeSantis signed last year after he targeted Disney over its opposition to the state's parental rights in education legislation, which critics call the, quote, don't say gay, end quote, law. On a note, I applied for the Reedy Creek Fire Department. Maybe now with the changeover, maybe they'll hire me this time. I think I'm getting too old for that. This is according to the Tampa Bay Times and the Orlando Sentinel. Number 8, Church of England to explore gender-neutral terminology for God. Church of England officials said Wednesday they would start exploring the possibility of using gender-neutral terminology to refer to God. After a priest asked during the General Synod, the church's governing body, about developing more inclusive language for those who wish to speak of God in a, quote, non-gendered way, end quote. The centuries-old institution announced it would form a commission on using gender-neutral terms this spring. Quote, Christians have recognized since ancient times that God is neither male nor female, end quote, a church spokesperson said in a statement to Reuters. But the spokesperson said, quote, the variety of ways of addressing and describing God found in Scripture has not always been reflected in our worship, end quote. This is according to Reuters. Number 9, Disney to slash 7,000 jobs. Walt Disney Company CEO Robert Iger announced Wednesday that the entertainment giant would cut 7,000 jobs and $5.5 billion in cost under a reorganization giving more authority to people responsible for creating content. The company will also increase its focus on sports media. Iger, outlined the plans in his first earnings, calling the returning as chief executive after Disney's board dismissed Bob Chapek in November. Iger said Disney would change its TV and movie offerings, reinstate its dividend, and possibly adjust the prices of its streaming services. The Wall Street Journal reported, quote, it's time for another transformation, end quote, Iger said. Disney shares rose 5.7% in after-hours trading. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. Number 10, China balloon spy on militaries around the world. China spy balloons, like the one shot down over the weekend after it flew through U.S. airspace, are part of a global surveillance system that collects information on the military capabilities of countries around the world, the New York Times reported Wednesday, citing 3 American officials. Some officials are convinced the flights are designed to help Beijing get better at spying on U.S. military bases, its biggest concern, according to the Times. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said at a news conference that the U.S. has shared information about China's program with dozens of countries. Quote, we're doing so because the United States was not only the target of this broader program, which has violated the sovereignty of countries across 5 continents, end quote, he said. This is according to the New York Times. That's 10 things you need to know today for Thursday, February 9th, 2023. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for keeping up with me, and thanks for putting up with my stuttering and skipping. But I like to learn things, and I want to keep up on current events. And while I have this broadcast software in front of me, might as well teach you some things as well. Take you on the journey. Stick around to this feed for more. Also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast. It's called What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.